Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my review for Monster. So, this is a Netflix film that was actually debuted a few years back in 2018 at Sundance. It hadn't been picked up since then until this year, getting its wide release on Netflix. As such, I am counting it as a 2021 film because its official wide release was this year. Um, so Monster is based off of a book that I actually read back in my multicultural literature class in high school. And it's basically the story of this young 17-year-old man named Steve who is falsely accused of assisting with a murder um, just because of various circumstances that cause him to know the people behind it and whatnot. There's also a lot of discussion within the film and the book in regards to race and the kinds of issues that go along with that. So, like I said, I read this book when I was growing up, when I was in high school, and that was a decade ago. I just found out yesterday, literally yesterday, that this movie existed. And so I decided to check it out because I do remember really liking that book and it kind of shaping a lot of my views on the racial prejudices that exist within the court system. So I wanted to see how this movie stacked up just from the very vague information I remembered from the original book. And so I watched it last night, and it's good. It's not the best film I've seen this year, but it's really good. And I think one of its biggest strengths is the realness of it all. It feels very raw, very real. Like you feel the emotions of these characters. You feel the natural just chemistry of them working off of each other within this story. They all feel like they belong there and they all feel like they're playing their roles to perfection. The actor who played Steve, the main character, really sold the fear, the panic, the confusion, the anger, all of these emotions that you see the character go through due to this accusation. There's also some pretty big names in it too. Steve's father is played by Jeffrey Wright, who is going to be in the Robert Pattinson Batman movie as Commissioner Gordon. His mother is Jennifer Hudson, who I did not realize for most of the time watching that, and then it's like I knew she looked familiar, and then it kind of clicked for me. um, but there's also musician ASAP Rocky in the film, as well as oh God, what is his name? Nas as well, and everyone in the film really performs well. They feel believable, they feel realistic, they feel genuine in their emotions, their ideas, their just the way they portray these characters. All of the actors do a fantastic job. Now, there's also some really interesting cinematography and camera work in this film, and I feel like that was fully intentional because the character of Steve is a young photographer and film student. Um, he's part of this film club at his school run by this teacher who's played by the same actor as Podansky from Holes. I think that's his name. Um, which is awesome, by the way, because it's like I always like that actor, and also Holes is a great movie, like genuinely a really great movie. um, but yeah, so he's in here as the teacher who does the film club that Steve is a part of, and because Steve is so into cameras, so into taking pictures and film and stuff, you see throughout the movie, there's a lot of shots that are very much shots you would think that a photographer or filmmaker would look at. And it's seen, and because of it, a lot of this film, a lot of its camera work, a lot of just the scenes and the setups and everything look like it was done by a film student, honestly, by someone who's trying to figure out their style and trying to really get a grasp for it. I didn't take too many like kind of classes or anything like that in high school, but I did take a photography class or two. And I do like photography. I while I never took any filmmaking or anything, it's like I have some at least experience with all of that. And it's like I really liked some of the shots they went for. Really, really selling the emotion and the impact of the scenes as well. The way the movie is set up is also fairly simple, but it works really well. Um, it's kind of one of those films that cuts back and forth between two separate times. You have the current day within the court and the jail that Steve is in, both in the prison, just kind of dealing with what's going on, as well as in court, actually having his case put forward by his public defender. Um, and then you have portions of the story that are shown in the past, his interactions with the people who committed the crime, and various examples of just how he lived his life and his connections with his family. And it really makes you root for his character, really makes you like him and understand him. It just connects us as viewers with the character of Steve. And I think that's important because when the ending comes along, and of course, he is eventually uh, announced as not guilty, it means something more when you've actually come to know the character. Um, if I want to compare this to like 12 Angry Men from the 50s. I believe it was 56, but I'm not 100% certain on that. It 12 Angry Men, I've said before, is the only movie that I absolutely consider perfect, and I stand by that. But I want to note something that isn't the focus of the film. See, the movie 12 Angry Men, for those who don't know, is about a court trial. It is about this young kid who is accused of murder, and the movie centers on the jury deliberating in the jury room, determining whether or not there's room for reasonable doubt or not on whether this kid committed the murder. Um, but the movie isn't actually about the verdict. Even though we know the kid is declared not guilty because reasonable doubt is found, the movie is about the jury deliberation. So, what happens to this kid, we don't have a connection to. Sure, we get information about him spread throughout the film as the jury talks about him and deliberates about him, but we don't actually have that connection. What we watch the film for, what we watch 12 Angry Men for, is not whether or not this kid is going to get freed. In the end, it's not the focus. It's not what the film is about. But Monster, on the other hand, is about that. It is about this young black man in Harlem who's just trying to live his life, just trying to get through school, just trying to go to college, have a girlfriend, just a normal everyday life that suddenly just gets uprooted because people he had been associated with happened to murder a person. And because this movie is about Steve so heavily, it allows us to connect with him and makes it that verdict at the end matter. It actually means more because of that connection. The film really does well to endear you to its characters and really feel their emotions heavily. There's this specific scene, without going too much into spoilers, where Jeffrey Wright's character, Steve's father, uh, is asked by his son if he believes he's innocent. And he does not actually answer the question. But it's still made very clear that he does, but that he's afraid, that he is worried. And Jeffrey Wright pulls this off phenomenally. Like, I don't know this actor too well, admittedly. Like, I think he was in Waterworld, but I never saw that. Um, but I'm excited now that I've actually seen him in something. I'm excited to see him play Gordon in Batman. I think he can pull it off. I think he definitely has the acting chops for that. Um, and overall, I just think this movie was really good. It told a really good, raw, emotional story that connected you with its characters and really had the overall intensity that I felt it needed to. Now, I said it wasn't my favorite movie or anything that I've seen this year, and that's more just a personal entertainment perspective. Because while these movies are important, movies that touch on topics like this, and while they're really good and necessary, it's admittedly hard to find like a lot of entertainment in a movie that's just so real. Because at times it's just like it's hard to watch and everything. Unlike a movie like, I don't know, let's say Avengers, something in the MCU where it's just like, oh, this is so ridiculous and goofy and just kind of removed from real life that it's like, yeah, it's fun and entertaining. There are some things you could probably connect to reality, but in general, it's just a fun, entertaining movie. But when the movies get super real, it's like while they can be really entertaining still, while they can be really good, most of the time they can get very heavy too. Just on a personal note for me, it's sometimes that heaviness can affect just general enjoyability compared to other films. Um, but that is not to by any means take anything away from this movie or any other film that does stuff like this because they are important and they do a great job at showcasing that. And this is no different. So if you have not seen Monster yet, I would definitely suggest it. It is on Netflix. It's about an hour and 40 minutes, so not too long at all. But that's I think including the credits too. To be fair, it's worth the watch. Definitely worth checking out. I would definitely suggest it. Um, but if you have seen it, tell me in the comments below what do you think of Monster. If you've read the book, tell me what you think of it. But for the time being, thank you so much for tuning in. And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.